I'm feeling like a Verizon commercial. Can you guys hear me now? Excellent. It may have been my fault. I got some background noise in my environment today, and I was doing all I could do to mitigate that. And I had special microphones and shielding around them all set up, but I've gone straight to the pickup on my headset, and that seems to be working. All right. Before I actually start with my topic today, I wanted to say thank you. Being part of this community has really changed my life. It has allowed me to surround myself with the right people. I know with this group especially, it's probably cliche to say that you become like the people you surround yourself with. But I noticed a few weeks ago that I really liked who I was becoming, and I decided to see who I was hanging out with so I could thank them. And I really looked at where I was spending my time and what I was doing, and without a doubt, over the past several months, I've spent more time having quality interactions with people from this group than any other person or group besides my immediate family. So I want to thank you guys for helping me become the person that I'm becoming. And with that, I'll actually get into the topic of today's talk. And so hi, I'm Toby, and I inspire. In fact, I freaking rock. I am outstanding. I knew from a young age that I would be somebody, that I would accomplish great things. I remember one day I was riding in my mom's station wagon to the beach with a bunch of friends. I was probably 11 years old at the time. Magnum P.I. was one of my favorite TV shows. Oof, man, that red Ferrari was awesome. And so as we drove along, we talked about the things we wanted to become, the cars we wanted to own someday. And I remember saying to myself that day under my breath, I remember saying, yeah, but I really will. And I haven't bought that red Ferrari yet. Haven't moved to Hawaii yet either. But over the past 16,000 or so days that I've been traveling around the sun, I've done a few really cool things. I mentioned at the beginning that I inspire and that I freaking rock. But did you know that I retired when I was 27? That I had made and lost $1 million while most of my classmates were still paying off student loans? That I was a champion athlete in several sports in high school and college? Shit, I'm an Eagle Scout, a world-class scientist, one of the smartest people I know. I'm extremely humble, have the best wife in the world, the two prettiest daughters ever born. Did I mention that I'm humble? Seriously though, life has been pretty good. And I've never really failed at any task that I truly wanted to complete. And I attribute a lot of that to my self-belief, which really aligns perfectly with yesterday's call topic. But what I wanted to talk about today goes beyond pretty good. It's really helped me make a 2mm shift, that move from excellent to outstanding, and I've done it in a very short period of time. It wasn't easy, and I still struggle with it today. Partly because of that self-belief that served me so well in the past, I guess. But the most amazing thing that I've experienced in this journey to become a better me, the most amazing thing I've experienced has been that asking for help isn't really that hard. To set the stage a little bit, I mentioned at the beginning that I retired at 27. And I can tell you that when you're 27 and retired, it's pretty easy to become bored pretty quickly. So within a month and a half, I had gone to graduate school, started a consulting business, and was learning and growing in my technical field. And as that went on, one of my consulting clients ended up being one of the laboratories at the university where I was doing my graduate work. And so in exchange for a desk and a business card that said lab manager on it, I got to manage the laboratory for them, and it really helped me market and sell my consulting business because I was affiliated with a major university. So that was great. And I was doing that for almost 10 years, just sort of sliding along, gliding on revenues from the business that we'd started when I was younger, and just living a nice, relaxed life, working when I wanted to, where I wanted to, with the people I wanted to work with. It was perfect. And there was a position that opened up at the university. It was a true full-time job, and I hesitated a lot before I applied for it, because I had swore to myself in that rainy November day in 1997 that I would never again work for a company that I didn't own. And well, I didn't own the university, but I said, I can do this job. Actually, on my cover letter to them, I think I said, I'll do it while you look for somebody, and their response was, no, we want you. And so I took a job, and it was a real job. The title of the job is Operations Manager for Manufacturing Laboratories in the Mechanical Engineering Department. I always have to take a breath after I say that. But this is my true, real job. I mean, my first true, real job in over 10 years, and I was a manager now. People reported to me. And it took me about 3 years to understand what it meant to be a manager. At the beginning, I wanted to help everybody. I wanted to, every student that came in, I wanted to help them make their part. I wanted to make their part for them, whatever it was that I could do to help. And I ended up interfering a lot with the people that worked for me because I was trying to do their job for them too. I was pretty outstanding and excellent, and I always figured I could do it better, so I'll just do it. And over this course of this 3-year period, I grew into being a manager, and I realized what it meant was that I couldn't do everything. In fact, if I was doing everything, I wasn't doing my job. My job was to make sure that the people that I worked with had the resources that they needed. Make sure that if somebody that was above us in the hierarchy was complaining, that I was intercepting that complaint and protecting them from it, and to really support them. And once I understood that, started practicing it, and I struggled with it a lot, things got so much better. We drastically increased the throughput in the laboratory. We went from helping maybe 200 students a year to consistently helping over 1,200 students a year. And this is helping them to do very complex things and to move them to a place where they needed to be so they could graduate. But and so that was great, and I learned and I grew a lot. And I was still helping. I was just doing that help in a different way. And we all, I think, as social animals as we are as humans, we like to help. I remember one time, it was driving back from Easter dinner, I believe it was, and driving along and realized there was a car that had gone off the road that I could see. And so we stopped and went over, and it was an older gentleman. He was probably in his 70s. He was driving home from his kid's place for dinner, and it was a cold, rainy kind of Eastery kind of day. And so we had him come in our car. He sat there in the heat of our car, called the police. The police called a tow truck, and he ended up riding the tow truck back to his home as they towed his car there. And so that was a great feeling of, I got to help somebody. And of course, almost all of us, when we get into a situation where the need for help is right in front of us, we always do what we have to do to help out. I realized the next morning that he had left his wallet in the car. And so the next morning I called him up, and then I drove to his house, which was probably 30 miles from my house, just to give him that wallet. And I remember driving back from that feeling that I've really helped somebody. I've done something I didn't have to do. And it's just that great feeling. And I think we all, if we think about it, we can think of times that we've done something that was helpful, and that it made us feel more complete because of our helping. And so that was great. As we moved on, though, I really couldn't personally ask for help. As I got better at running my doing the management in the lab, we were also still running a business that we had started, which is what had allowed me to be in that position in the first place. And there were so many times that I was carrying the load of that all by myself, and I had a business partner. And I remember that it was a real estate business, and so when the tenants change, you have to turn the apartment, you have to go in and clean it out, do some painting, maybe do some repairs, and then rent it for the next tenant. And I remember that my partner offering to help do those apartment turns, and me being physically angry that they thought I couldn't handle it, and I would have to be at the edge of my capacity. I mean, beyond the edge of my capacity before I would even accept help. This is help from my business partner who was profiting from the activity. And I still couldn't accept that help because in our agreement, that was my job. That wasn't their job. And it was really, really difficult for me to go through that. We finally ended up actually closing the business, selling all the assets, and splitting the cash. And I think looking back on that now, a lot of that was because of my inability to ask for help and to reach out and to accept that help when it was offered. So fast forward a little bit. About a year ago, and I was well into my 4-hour work week habits at this time, I decided that I would do some rewiring in the house, and I went up in the attic. I worked all day long, and I was installing new lights in the kids' new bedroom that we had just finished off. And at the end of the night, as I was putting away all of my tools, I actually finished putting away all the tools. I turned off all the lights, and I'm just walking back to the stairs, and I fell through the ceiling into the master bedroom. And I caught myself sort of on my shoulders. It was 2 legs down through, and it was because I had lifted up some of the floorboards to do some of that wiring work and never put them back. And the kids downstairs heard the noise and they came running upstairs. And by the time they got to the top of the stairs and they could see my feet dangling down into the room, I was done swearing and I was laughing about it because it was so hysterical. But true to form at that point, I could have hired someone to come in and fix it. And I should probably have hired someone to come in and fix it. That would have been better value to me. But I said, I've done this kind of work before. I can fix that. And so we decided also that we had been planning on renovating the master bedroom. So this was a perfect opportunity. It was just after Thanksgiving last year. And so my wife and I spent all of our free time from roughly Thanksgiving to New Year's renovating and stripping all the plaster off. When you start a job like this, you say, well, if we're going to open up the walls, we might as well insulate. If we're going to insulate, we might as well put in new windows. So these jobs grow over time if you've ever done one like this. And so as we did that, though, I can never stop learning and listening. And so we started listening to some different audiobooks. And I had heard an ad on the internet or something for Tony Robbins' book, The Mastery of Money, or Money Mastery of the book about money that just came out last year. And so I said, well, that'll be good. It's a long one, so that'll take a lot of time. We'll kill some hours. And I listened to it. And my wife listened to it with me off and on. And then we listened to it again. And then I remembered, I really liked that Robert Kiyosaki guy when I read his stuff. And so I got some of his audiobooks and we listened to some of that stuff. And we decided together while we were doing that we really were ready for a change. We were ready to move on in our life. And I realized that we could grow a new real estate business, and that in fact it wouldn't be that hard because I already knew how to do it, and I was pretty good at it. But I said, all right, so I already know how to do it one way. There's other people that know how to do it different ways. Maybe I can do it faster if I sign up for some training. So I went ahead and I did that. I signed up for some training, and then I said, well, I know that I'm a shiny object kind of a guy. So if I want to make sure that I don't switch focus now that I've actually spent some real money on some real training here, I'm going to hire a coach, because I heard coaches will help. It came from several of the audiobooks that I'd listened to. And at just about that time, I got an advertisement about a free coaching consultation. So I signed up, I did that. So I hired a coach now. So now I bought some training. I'd hired a coach. I went to go do some more training, some more parts of the training that I purchased. I joined a mastermind group. And so so I was learning and expanding and looking at properties and making offers of properties, negotiating. And as we were doing that, but also in the back of my mind, there was this book that I started. And I started this book 10 years ago. And I said, you know what, I'm going to finish that book because I can make some money if I sell that book. So I started working on finishing the book, and I get distracted by all the other stuff that was going on. And in one of these training things that I went to, the guy that was speaking, who's become one of my mentors now, he said, outsource everything that sucks. And I said, I could hire somebody to help me finish this book because the work is done. It just needs to be organized, formatted, and some fact checking done. And so I actually hired one of my students at the beginning of the summer, and I spent 9.5 years working on the book. He spent another 3 weeks finishing it, and we were able to publish it. And then 3 months after that, we published the follow-on version of the book that went through there. And we've actually got 2 more books now in process, and he's starting to author a book of his own. And it was just because I realized it won't be perfect, but it will be good enough if I let somebody else do it. And so I started reaching out and getting help by asking, and it wasn't that I asked for a favor. I asked somebody if I could hire them to help me with my project. Now I've tried some other outsourcing tools, and when you're doing this, if you've got a book that you're working on, and there's plenty of websites where there's writers out there that will help you with a book, I urge you to use caution and start slowly, because I got really excited about this idea, and I ended up with another book idea. I said, well, I'll just outsource the whole thing here. I've got all the lecture slides that I've made. I've got video content. I'll have this person over here at this outsourcing site just put everything together in a book format for me. And I didn't pay attention to what she was doing. And the only reason I figured out she wasn't doing what I wanted to was I got a notice that the credit card that I'd set up for billing was maxed out. Now, luckily, it had a fairly low credit limit, and I had been using it for other things, so it wasn't maxed out totally on that project. But it turns out I wasn't paying attention to what she was doing, and she wasn't doing what I had wanted or what I was expecting her to do. So when you do outsource something like that, please use some caution and do that. So as I learned and moved through this, it was so great to realize how quickly things could happen by just asking for a little bit of help. This group, and so I found this group because of my coach. I realized that I needed to connect with more people, that I needed to grow that group of people around me who were thinking the way I was thinking. And so I asked my coach, I said, where can I find those people? I asked him if he had a network of his clients, for example, that we could all interact or something like that. And he suggested, well, we'll go to Facebook. He actually he signed me up for a Facebook group, and I've been contributing there also. And then shortly after that, I went to the Tony Robbins event in Chicago, and because of his telling me to participate in Facebook to find these people, well, I signed up for the UPW Chicago Facebook group. There was a posting, and I actually went back to try to find it to see exactly what it was about, but I guess Yali commented on something that I had commented on in that group, and she was inviting, in her comment, she invited people to join the calls. And I remember that was on a Friday, and I was really excited that the Saturday morning I could be on a phone call with these kind of people. And that's when I found out that the calls were only on weekdays, and I was kind of annoyed at the beginning, but I had to wait 2 more days before I could be on this call. But I remember that first call in detail, and I realized this was the group that I needed to be with, and that these people were going to be able to help me move on and grow in my life enormously. I would like I can share lots of other stories about how asking for help has helped me move forward. But it was in asking my coach how to connect with people like this group that I found this group. It was through asking my student if he'd like a summer job that I was able to publish 2 books since June, really. And so there's been so much enormous activity. I've got lots of other stories, and we could talk offline about that. But before I end today, what I'd really like to do is ask all of you for something. And I, uh, I mentioned at the beginning that being part of this community has brought enormous change to my life. And it's done it in such a short period of time. And I want to make sure that that growth and that change continues uninterrupted. And so I could ask you to go to the fundraising page that's been set up and to think about the value that these calls bring to you and to contribute based on that value or based on what you can afford. But that's not what I'm going to do today. What I'm doing is I'm asking you to please go to the fundraiser page and contribute based on the value that you perceive and based on what you can afford. But to do that for me, please, because I don't want these calls to stop and I want this continued growth to be outstanding. Seriously though, it says when you call in that this call is brought to you by freeconferencecallhd.com. But these calls are actually not free to produce. And Yali has had real expenses and has made real sacrifices so that we can all become what we are becoming. So please help me, help yourself, and please help Yali so that together we can help the world. Thanks. I'm Toby, and I inspire.